Hello and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes and it is Thursday the 29th. No, it's not. Thursday the 27th of November 2025. Getting ahead of myself there. You're watching Morning Brew on Politics Social. We have some beautiful, awesome, erudite socialites in our chat here. If you'd like to join them, all you need to do is, well, first of all, give us a like, give us a like, give us a like. Even if you don't like it, give us a like. Just give us a like anyway. Then subscribe to the channel, wait for 1 minute, and then you'll be able to join the chat. And if you fancy, hit the bell notification icon. That'll tell you when we're going live with live stuff, exciting live things that are happening. And you can be part of the live show. You can change destiny. You can change the course of history, perhaps, by putting something really funny in the chat. I don't know. Or something very, weighty and interesting. Okay, so big shout out to Gallifreyan Ren and Miss Paula Thomas and Liam, Pete, Katrina in there. We've got Sid, got SG, Harry Flashman. Hello, Ivan's in there as well. Hello. We're going to be talking about the budget today, which is really boring. But that's okay. You could just switch off. Just, not listen to what I'm actually saying. Just, have some ASMR over my dulcet tones. So the way that the newspapers reported this budget is just absolutely troppo banana pants bananas. It is just like she's announced that it's the end of the world. It's Armageddon. It's the apocalypse. It's the end of the world. Armageddon out of here. Like, seriously, it's so OTT. It is absolutely painful. I'm going to do something that I don't normally do. I'm going to go straight over to the papers because I just want a quick review and then we'll talk about what's actually in the budget. Thank you very much, before we do that, to Ivan Ambrose for the £10 super chat. I'm here on the stream properly today. I literally watched seconds of Badenoch's response. She is utterly inflammatory and shamefully belittled. She shamefully belittled misogyny. Yeah, she's one of those pick-me's who's kind of like, I'm not had to worry about misogyny in my life because I was born very rich and I went to private school. So yeah, she's not the best. Do you know what I will do though? I've been inspired I have been by Ivan. I'm going to set a timer for 1 hour for confetti. See if we can get some confetti this morning. Depending on how you feel about the budget, I guess. Whether you hate it or love it, let me know. And maybe let me know with a super chat. Okay, so started that goal. Headed over to the papers now. And we have an advert for Currys. Oh, that's interesting. Not bought anything off Currys for about 7 years. We've got the Times newspaper here. High welfare, high tax. The Mirror has budget with the Labour heart, because obviously it mirrors a left-wing Labour-supporting newspaper, one of the only papers to support Labour. In fact, I think it is the only Labour-supporting paper. But the Times there, Murdoch rag, leading with high welfare, high tax. Now, brace yourselves, because the gobshites are out today. Here we go. A budget for Benefit Street. Paid for by working people. And then we've got the Mail here. Spiteful raid on strivers to lavish, note the language, billions on Benefit Street. We've got how the Ratch stole Christmas, or the Rach, I don't know, that doesn't really work. A red box of broken promises, says the Daily Tory graph. Spend now, pay later. The Guardian, a bit more reasonable. I'm asking everyone to make a contribution because we want better public services. I'm happy to pay a little bit more tax if it means to get better public services. That's just me. I'm not rich. I don't know. Reeves budget smashes tax records on the Financial Times. Just a bit more of a sort of reasonable, I guess, in comparison. Budget goes as billed. You're paying, says the Metro. And millions more to pay higher income tax as Raves put squeeze on middle classes to pay for all these raves, these 90s raves to come back to haunt us. So you'll notice the Express and the Mail particularly offensive. going on about, yeah, and you should subscribe, going about lavish billions on Benefit Street. Benefit Street was also on the front cover of the Scum newspaper that we don't cover on this channel because, you know, the Mail and the Express and the Telegraph and the Times are bad enough. You know, you don't want to mince them all together and come out with a Scum newspaper. But yes, Benefit Street, it's all going to benefits. No. Friends, right? Do you know where it's all going? Pensions, which are regarded as benefits. Yeah. So all the people who read the Mail, because no one under the age of 97 reads the fucking Mail, right? Going to be sitting there, having been retired for 30 fucking years and not done any work for 30 years, not contributed to the economy for 30 fucking years, just lived off their gold-plated final salary pension. They'll be sitting there going, reading this newspaper, I'm giving money to benefit scroungers. Not quite realising that their pension's going to go up if they're a married couple by £800 a year. 800, that's all right, isn't it? If you're on a new pension, it's £1,000. I'm not getting that. Are you getting that? I don't think we're getting that. But, you know, it doesn't make any difference. And this is why I genuinely believe that Rachel Reeves was still up yesterday and brought in UBI, 95% tax on millionaires, rejoin the EU. Because what difference would it make? They would have printed the same headlines on the newspapers. But here's the thing. Newspapers don't fucking matter. You know? They don't matter. What matters really to the government is that the bond markets don't go fucking bonkers, that the pound doesn't collapse, that the FTSE 100 doesn't go on fire. That's what they're worried about. That's what they're really worried about, because that's what happened with Truss and Kwarteng, with their mini budgets, which don't forget, the Daily Mail reported as at last a true Tory budget. That's what the front cover of the at last, this is what we've been waiting for all this time. All this time, massive tax cuts, massive cuts to everything. Cuts. Unfunded tax cuts, that's what we want. And it tanked the economy and blew a 425 billion with a B hole in our pension funds and made everyone's mortgages go through the fucking roof. Yeah, I remember that. I do. I didn't even have a fucking mortgage. What do I care? So anyway, right, let's go through what's actually in the budget. I've not missed this benefit smearing shite, says Liam. Yeah, it's utter bollocks. It's utter bollocks. They seeded it, didn't they, last week? Started going on about disabled people getting cars. Wow, okay. That's the thing that we shouldn't have. Cars for disabled people. So they can get around. Yeah, that seems like so unfair. Making millionaires who own mansions that are worth over £5 million pay £7,500 a year extra on top of their council tax. Yeah, that's so unfair. How dare they have to pay 0.01% of their earnings on tax? It's crushing to them. They'll spend that amount on a fucking hideous painting. They'll spend much more than that on a fucking hideous painting or a bottle of fucking Beaujolais or something from 1939. The last year before, you know, the Nazis were actually, the British Nazis were kind of like, you know, defeated in 1939 because of Hitler invading Poland and us declaring war. Sort of, you know, took the wind out of Oswald Mosley's sail. And, you know, just the fact that the invasion and the brutalization of Ukraine by Putin, by the Russians, hasn't taken the wind out the Russophile sails of Nigel Farage and stuff. Oh, that's a story for another time. But let's talk about it. First of all, let's mention the OBR leak. This is just fucking insane, right? An unprecedented leak of the Office of Budget Responsibility forecast before the Chancellor stood up. So it was released at 12 o'clock or just before 12 o'clock, before Prime Minister's questions. We actually saw Rachel Reeves on her phone during Prime Minister's questions looking like, what the fuck? She had a what the fuck face. That's my what the fuck face. Do you like it? It's good, that, isn't it? The OBR's job is to produce an independent assessment of the budget's real effects, right? And accidentally publishing it beforehand undermines the entire theatre of budget day and hands the opposition ammo to respond to what she's going to do. Not off, they are given a copy of it, of the budget, so they do know what's going to come. But the way that a budget is written, you have the preamble, which went on for a bit too long as far as I'm concerned, but whatever. Then you have the good stuff. So everyone goes, oh, that's quite, yeah, okay, I'll live with that. Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. And then you have the bad stuff, right? The tax rises and tax threshold freezes and all that kind of shit, right? And, Reeves was forced to open with an apology that for a mistake that wasn't even hers. So that started off her speech on the wrong foot, with a defensive start. And if this had been a Tory chancellor, the press would have got after the OBR because it's a Labour chancellor. They went after her, said, what do you think of that, eh? So she had to stand up and make it very, very clear that it was someone else's fault, that it wasn't her fault. The OBR is an independent body from the government, and they cocked up. They cocked up really badly. Mel Stride called it outrageous, and had to go at Labour over their competence when it was a completely separate body that released this information earlier than they were supposed to. So Reeves's core narrative, we're talking about her choices, framing decisions as deliberate choices, not accidents, not inevitabilities. These are the choices they're taking. Classic political messaging. She's taking ownership of what she's doing, making herself appear strong while preemptively justifying unpopular decisions, saying these are my decisions and this is why I've made them. And her sort of repeated mantra was no austerity, no headline tax rises, and no reckless borrowing. This was the no headline tax rises was to keep the Tory press subdued. Didn't work. And the no reckless borrowing was to do more with trying to keep the bond markets and the financial markets steady and making sure the pound didn't collapse. So this is kind of like the anti-Truss, anti-Kwarteng, anti-Sunak budget, I guess. And she did trot out the sort of the black hole line about the Conservatives leaving a financial crater, which they did. And this is her shield for sort of raising taxes in certain areas that she has to repeat for political cover. And there's important contrast here. The same papers who are saying, Labour's taxing workers allowed the Conservatives to introduce dozens of stealth taxes over the course of their tenure in office without question, without question. And this strikes to the heart of the media hypocrisy that we live in this country. Don't forget the taxes that have gone up when it comes to people's income, right? This is where they're going after hard-working strivers, right? They're not going up. It's just that the thresholds are being frozen. So there's a threshold at like 50 grand, right? For instance, right? And that's at the point where your rate goes up. But it doesn't go up on the rate of all of your income. Your first 50 grand is taxed at a certain rate. Anything you earn over that is taxed at a higher rate, which seems quite fair. But the freezers were actually brought in by the Tories. They were set to stay in place until 2027, 2028. Anyway, all that Rachel Reeves has done is continued them for an extra 3 years on top of that, so they're actually going to be in place until 2031. They will remain in place. If Labour lose the 2029 election, maybe they won't stay in place. But this is a continuation of a Tory policy that the papers didn't have a problem with when it was a male Tory chancellor who was bringing in these proposals, who was bringing in these measures. Funny that, but let's get into it. So, income tax, national insurance, freeze on thresholds extended till 2031. This quietly pulls millions into higher tax bands as wages rise because of inflation. This is the biggest revenue raiser in the budget. But Rachel Reeves can insist that she kept her manifesto pledge by not raising headline rates. Technically true, politically a bit slippy, a bit born slippy, a bit underworld. She's using the letter of the pledge to sort of break the spirit of the pledge of no tax rises, right? But this is the legacy of Sunak and Hunt, Jeremy Hunt, the previous chancellor. It's just being extended. This is just like continuity politics. And this makes it indistinguishable from Tory policy. But you wouldn't know that looking at the papers. Looking at the papers screaming a budget for benefits, straight spiteful raid on strivers. You wouldn't think it, would you? Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Sorry, that's automatically set to go on when you come back to this screen. I'll turn that off now. Sorry. You've been hassled enough. You've been hustled enough. So then we look at the property, the dividends, the miniature mansion tax, and I don't mean a tax on miniature mansions. I just mean this is quite a minuscule tax on mansions. Property, savings, and dividend taxes have been raised by 2%. This is aimed at wealthier households. This is modest, but it's symbolically important. They are taxing the wealthy, which is what everyone wants, right? Tax the rich. They're doing it. Not doing it as much as I would like to, but just look at how the newspapers react when you put any kind of tax on millionaires. They go bananas. Why? Because the newspapers are owned, published, written, edited, distributed by millionaires. Sorry, the distributors aren't millionaires, I guess. People driving in the white vans around the country with a stack of newspapers in the boot, in the back. Okay, they're not millionaires, but the people who own the distribution companies are. One of the added things they've added to the terrorism bill, the updated terrorism bill, the anti-protest laws that the Tories brought in, it's not just protesting against outside army bases and things to stop people blockading the way into army bases and blockading their way into Fast Lane where they keep the nuclear subs. They added newspapers to it. They made it like this massive crime to, I don't know, hire a massive fucking articulated lorry and park it sideways across the gates of the Mirror Group newspapers printing presses so they can't actually get any of their toxic slime out for people to read around the country. That was like made into like a capital offence. It's funny that, isn't it? We have to protect these newspapers because otherwise they wouldn't be able to write bollocks like this. They wouldn't be able to write bollocks like this. No one would see it. Well, you'll see it because I guess I'll show it to you. But the people who read it on paper, they wouldn't see it. They wouldn't get to. So we got the council surcharge, as I mentioned, on properties worth over 2 million. That's 2,500, rising to 7,500, depending on the value of the house, up to between 2 million and up to 5 million. Not a huge revenue, but raiser this, but big political signalling, and also addresses the big problem that people who own a £19 million mansion in Mayfair pay less council tax than a single mum living in Blackpool. Makes no fucking sense. Right. Reeves avoids full revaluation to keep London voters calm. But as Phil Morehouse has pointed out, they are going to have to revaluate properties. We're going to have a system to find out how much these properties are worth, to find out which ones are worth between 2 and 5 million. And that could lead to a soft reset of council tax bans and the way that we address council tax in general, which I think is ridiculous that all these properties were given a banding based on a drive-by. So if for instance, here's a funny one. If you live on a corner house, right? And because you live on a corner house that was built maybe in like the 1930s, it might look bigger at the front than it is at the back. It might not be a perfect rectangle. It might be more of a trapezoid. Trapezoid, is that the right shape? I don't know. But bigger at the front and go smaller at the back. If you drive past, it might look like a really big house, but it might not be. Or you might live in a house that's very shallow. So it's very wide, but it's not 2 rooms deep. It's just 1 room deep. So it's just, the house isn't quite as big as you might expect if viewing it from the street. But unfortunately for people paying council tax, nearly all of these properties were just a drive-by with someone with a clipboard looking at the outside of the house and going, yeah, band D, band E, band F, band G, whatever band they picked. Depending on how the house looked and what the house prices were like in the early 90s, which is clearly bananas, right? But they needed something quickly to replace the poll tax, which was a massive failure. And there were riots in Kent. Kent? Against a Tory policy? Could you imagine? But yeah, the wildly unpopular poll tax needed to be replaced really quickly. And it was a real quick replacement that we're stuck with now. 35 years later, we've still got the same fucking system. And it's bad. It's really regressive. And we've got to remember, when we talk about, the rich, they pay, the top 10% pay 70% of all the taxes. Yeah, but the top 10% have got 90% of the wealth. There's a few families in the UK that between them own more wealth than the bottom 25% of the population. We're talking like a handful of families have more wealth than millions of people put together. So yeah, they should pay their share, and their share is more than that. So yeah, if the top 1% have 99% of the wealth, then they should pay 99% of the fucking taxes, right? I mean, it's not that extreme, but it's getting there. It's getting there. But what I find remarkable is so many people who don't live in a £2 million fucking mansion ringing up the radio to go, this is not fair. This is a tax on strivers. No, it's a tax on Nepo babies, people born into wealth. There are vanishingly few people in public life who have done well for themselves who came from a working class background. Only 8% of people working in film and TV have a working class background. Very few people in politics. Very few people in who are CEOs, who are artists, singers, actors. Very, very few of them. Because there is a clique of the privately educated. I need a button to come up going, private educated rant. But there is a clique of people, and they just hang out with each other. They just marry each other. That's why Kerry Mulligan, privately educated, is married to one of the fellas from Mumford & Sons, also privately educated. They hang out amongst themselves. That's why Chris Martin from Coldplay, privately educated, married Gwyneth Paltrow, privately educated. They tend to, I don't want to say come together because that sounds a bit rude, but they tend to have their clique and they don't move out of it. So when people who aren't part of that clique, aren't part of that rarefied air, get on the radio and they're like, I think it's disgraceful they're putting on this this £2,000 tax on a £2 million fucking mansion. I'm just like, please, what? So let me do the maths here. That's 1,000th of the value. Is that right? 1,000th of the value of the property. Am I just doing funny numbers here? I'm gonna get me calculator out. Hang on. Let me just do this. So your property is worth 2,500,000, right? We'll divide that by 2,500. Yeah, 1,000. I thought it was 1,000. Just thought I'd just double check. 1,000th of the value of the property. That's what the government are asking for. A surcharge for 1,000th. 1,000th of the value of the property that someone lives in. And people are ringing up the radio going, it's completely unreasonable, this. And the radio DJ says, Are you personally going to be affected by this £2,500 you're going to have to pay? No. I rent. I'm paying someone else's mortgage. Oh my God. But yeah, just, I mean, this is a cautious tax. But it's I guess they were a bit worried about upsetting affluent areas. And then we've got the pensions, the salary sacrifice clamp down. This is about £2,000 cap on national insurance free pension contributions via salary sacrifice. Anything above that is taxed like normal contributions. This raises 4.7 billion for the chancellor, for the exchequer. But this is politically brave to do this, but it will affect higher earners more. If you can afford to save £2,000 a month, you're doing all right. Honestly, £2,000 a month. Some of us don't get paid that much at all. If you can afford to save, you're doing all right. But this is a big problem in the UK at the moment. And not just in the UK, but this is a problem with just humanity at the moment. Because I see people who are, doing all right. And I speak to them and I say, you're doing all right. And they go, I don't feel like I'm doing all right. You hear this a lot. People earning over £100,000 a year saying they don't feel like that. They don't feel rich. And you're like, how can you not feel rich? You earn 5 times what I do. How can you not feel like you've got loads of fucking money? Do you know what I mean? Like how? I don't understand. I don't get it. What is it? And it's because of the fucking billionaires. That's why it is. Because these people who are earning £100,000 a year, who should be fucking happy with what they've got, are looking at these multi-millionaires who are buying fucking expensive bottles of wine and hideous paintings and big fuck-off motor yachts that, run on the tears of fucking baby seals or something. And they're like, oh, but I'm not that rich. I'm not that, comparing yourself. Which is ridiculous. It's like lords in the olden days, the aristocracy, comparing themselves. Well, I'm not as rich as the king. Well, okay, but you are rich. Look at the peasants. Look at the people below you. And here's the thing. Until World War II, we had a system in this country. We had no middle class, right? The middle class wasn't really a thing. It was your rich, fuck-off aristocrats. And then your shipping merchants, your slavers and all that lot, which usually were the aristocrats as well. And they had everyone else. It was upper class, working class. That was it. And never the twain. After the Second World War, we had not just the NHS, and also, national insurance and everything else coming in. But also, and this is important, we had an income tax that went up to 95%. The top band of income tax was 95%. And the Beatles had to pay it. They had a whinge about it. They did a song about the Kinks had to pay it. They did a song whinging about the taxman coming and taking all their dough, leaving them in their stately fucking home. Bastards. Well, I'll tell you how it's going to be. It's going to be 1 for you, 19 for me. 95%. I love the Beatles put the actual statistics in the lyrics of their song, whinging about having to pay so much tax. But what happened as a result of that was the blossoming of the middle class. In the 50s and 60s and up to the 70s, the middle class did really well. You had people who would have otherwise been on minimum wage, effectively. I know we didn't have minimum wage back then, but effectively on minimum wage, just working, blue-collar job, in a factory or whatever. And they could afford to buy a house. They could afford to buy not 1 car, but 2 cars and run that household off 1 income so that their partner could stay at home and look after the kids. Could you imagine that now? No, because we're being squeezed and squeezed and squeezed because the upper class, the aristocrats, hate the fact that anyone had the same things as them. They hate the fact that people could get on flights because flying was just for the super wealthy. They hate the fact that we've got TVs. Back then, when the Queen got married or got coronated or whatever, there would be like 1 TV in the street, and all the people on the street, living on the street, would look through the window of the house that had the TV. They want to go back to those days. They hate that you've got a refrigerator. They hate that you've got a car. Fucking these people with cars. It devalues my car for other people to have cars. And you notice this, don't you? It's why people buy wank cars. It's my wanky fucking noisy cars. The kind of, look at me, I'm a very special boy. Wanky cars, and they put a wanky fucking personalised number plate on the wanky car, and they drive around the wanky car because they're like, I'm better than all the other cars. Look at me and my car. Whoop whoop, bop bop. It's the only way to travel, Like some fucking latter-day toads of Toad Halls. Do you know what I mean? It's just toads of Toad Hall, I guess. Can you plural Toad Halls? I don't know. But seriously, that is the problem. It's not that we are like normal people not doing as well as we could be. There's a lot of people who are, but they don't feel rich. They don't feel like they're doing all right. It's all to do with feelings. And it is a mad situation where you've got someone earning over 100,000 a year who is jealous of someone earning $1 million a year, who is jealous of someone earning $1 billion a year, and the person who's earning $1 billion a year is jealous of someone like me who earns fuck all, but still gets to go travel and get on planes and own a fridge. It's like, what is going on here? Can we just get a fucking grip? Please? Can we just... But yeah, anyway. So, yeah, we've got the salary sacrifice squeeze. We've also got the ISA reform. The cash ISA limit cut from 20,000 to 12,000 from 2027, which is this is kind of crazy though. But the over 65s are exempt for this. All right. So when you say cash ISA, that means that you can take the money out at any time, right? So it's a savings account, but it acts as like a current account. And the rest of us, it's going to be limited to £12,000. The ones of us who are working, those saving accounts that we can take out the money straight away is going to be cut to £12,000. For pensioners, it's still going to be on 20 grand. They're still going to be able to take out 20 grand a year if they want to out of their ISAs. Cash. Wow. Plus pensioners, £1,000. If there's two of them living in a household, they're going to be £1,000 better off after this budget. You wouldn't think of it, considering the newspapers that they read, spiteful raids and all this. And yeah, the government is pushing a simplified first-time buyer ISA later, apparently. And then we've got the milkshake exemption. Dairy drinks are added to the sugar tax. This is kind of like a public health measure. It's going to make milkshakes more expensive, so I won't buy them. I'm still going to buy milkshakes. Because my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. But it is a sugary drink. And even though it's got milk in it, so it's kind of like it avoided VAT up to this point because they were like, well, milk isn't a luxury. Yeah, but you shake it up. That makes it a luxury. And then we've got the fuel duty extended freeze. So fuel duty has been frozen until September 2026 next year. And it's now been it's been frozen now for over a decade. And raising it remains politically kind of impossible. Inflation-linked increase penciled in after that. But this could be cancelled in the spring budget. We'll have to see. And then we've got the electric vehicle mileage duty. And this is an interesting one because I drive an electric vehicle. I don't own an electric vehicle, but I drive one. And this is going to be 3 pence per mile for EVs, 1.5 pence for plug-in hybrids. This makes sense because of the lost duties because of people using electricity to charge their cars instead of toxic slime, nightmare fuel exported from a country where people still live in slavery. The government's not getting as much money from us driving around, and we have to pay for the maintenance of the roads. I honestly, as an EV driver, I'm like, okay, fair enough. It's 300 quid a year. It's going to cost us 300, 400 quid a year. That's it. Because we do about 10,000, 12,000 miles a year. Okay. Honestly, not asked. Ms. Paula Thomas, £5 super chat. Thank you. The tax cut agenda is based on the Laffer curve, which is laughable. As it is based on assumptions with no evidence. Well, I mean, a lot of things that are done in these days are based on assumptions and not evidence. For instance, saying these are lavish billions on benefit streets, lavish billions on pensioners. You spelt pensioners wrong. Anyway, the OBR has warned, though, about this EV tax, that it may slow EV uptake, but I've got my doubts that it will, because EVs are fucking amazing. The only people who hate EVs are people who don't have an EV, and I still don't know. I know that the plural of anecdote isn't data, but I don't know anyone who has an EV who has gone, oh, fuck this shit, I'm going back to paying, 70 quid to fill up my car each week instead of £3. That's how much it costs us each week. We put £3 worth of electricity in our car, and that does us for the week to get around. Used to cost 70 quid to fill the tank. Now it costs £3 a week. I'm sorry, I'm not having any arguments about this. I'm sure that there's a friend of a friend story that you've got about someone who got an EV and it was awful and it all went on fire, and he opened the bonnet and there was a slave child inside who had been put there by the lithium mining company. God, aren't lithium mines bad? Here's a picture of a open cast coal mine or a copper mine. Look at that. Oh, that's not a lithium mine. In fact, lithium mines don't really exist because lithium's in Bolivia or in Botswana. It's just on the surface. It's just a big salt flat. And you just basically have a tractor going along and sucking up all the salt, and then you filter the lithium out of it. Same lithium that's in your mobile phones. Oh, I shouldn't buy mobile phones. Oh, slavery. They write on their mobile phones. Anyway, so, the per mile charge is on top of standard road tax. Yep. Yeah, blah, blah, CW, yes. But there's tax on petrol and diesel. So, what do you want? Like, you got to get your money from somewhere for the people using the roads. And cars create a lot more damage to the roads. Do you know what creates a fuckload of damage to the roads? HGVs. I want to see a HGV ban in cities, in towns, in villages. HGVs should only be allowed to truck up and down the motorways. And then they go to a distribution hub and they're put into smaller vans and taken where they need to go. And yes, that might mean employing 4 people instead of 1. Well, maybe you should put all your stuff on the railways then. Just saying. But yeah, it's a cost-cutting measure that these supermarkets do. They get a 40-foot container and they absolutely stack it full of stuff, and that's the logistics system. And these HGVs bandy around these little narrow streets on pedestrianised streets. They go past schools, they knock over pedestrians, and they tear up the road. A vehicle that is 10 times more heavy than a car doesn't cause 10 times more damage. It causes 100 times more damage to the road because it's logarithmic. It goes up like fucking crazy. So that's what I would do, but that's by the by. Anyway, we're supposed to be talking about the budget, aren't we? Not what I would do to fix the fucking potholes and stop them from fucking forming in the first place. We're supposed to have smaller buses. I think it's ridiculous. We have double-decker buses in places like this in Durham. Pointless. It's fucking empty, except for like 1 hour a day when people are getting into work or whatever, coming back. Just fucking minibuses. Just put on 2 minibuses or 3 minibuses. Give people jobs. Anyway, moving on. What have we got? Cost of living next. Social policy and public services. We've got the £150 off move for energy. This is the eco insulation scheme is going to be scrapped, and the £150 is going to be wiped off energy bills instead. This is short-term help, but it does remove long-term energy efficiency support. But as Rachel Reeves pointed out, 97% of people actually had their bills go up as a result of the Tories' mismanagement of the eco insulation scheme, a lot of which was put up really, really badly and has resulted in mold in people's houses because there's no air circulation. You need air circulation. Talking of air circulation, I drilled a hole in the side of our house yesterday. God, it was satisfying. Big fuck off hole like this. I had a big, one of those the big fuck off bits, that's like hollow, with the 4 bits through there. 3 foot. This is an old house. 3 foot of stone I went through with the drill. God, it was satisfying. When it popped out the other end, I was like Charles fucking Bronson. I was like the cooler king. Yeah, let's dig a fucking tunnel. Yeah. God, I love doing shit like that. Anyway, it was to put in an extraction fan because you need air circulation in these old houses. And what's happened in a lot of these old houses is some dickhead back in the 70s or whatever thought, "I'll put render on this house. Yeah, that'll be a great idea. Let's render it." And rendering it traps in moisture between the stone of the house or the brick of the house and the outside render. And it's a terrible idea, and it means that mold grows inside the house. And so to avoid that, I've just drilled a big fuck off hole. I've got a mate who's a Sparky, and he said, I said, can you put a fan in there? And he said, yeah, I can, but it'll cost you half as much if you drill the hole yourself. And I went, can I borrow your drill? He went, yeah. This fucking drill. It's like this fucking. I'm like, cheers, mate. So that was good. Andrew, thank you very much for the wind up. I mean, super chat. I mean, wind up. But Graham, what about hydrogen? I'm not talking about hydrogen. We don't talk about Bruno. Oh my God, no, fuck hydrogen. Fuck it till it can no longer walk. Anyway, so there's some political logic to this insulation move. Is people don't feel the insulation investments. They have been a fucking disaster. 97% of houses haven't seen things improve. They will feel 150 quid coming off, so that's a good thing. The big moment of the budget was the 2-child limit abolished. So this is going to lift 450,000 children out of poverty. It's worth £5,450 per family. This is a huge progressive shift. It's symbolically enormous. Starmer and Reeves U-turned from a previous line on this, but I want to talk about this. This is a moral victory for Labour MPs after years of pushback, and you know the Conservatives attack this, and the newspapers attack this, and I was kind of surprised to see my friend Femi having a go about this, saying that Labour sacked these 7 MPs last year for saying that they should that we should have a 2-child benefit cap. They didn't sack them for saying they should. They were suspended. Some of them have come back. They had the whip suspended for voting on an SNP amendment on the King's speech, which is a 3-line whip. If it had been the SNP, if it had been Greens in power, if it had been the Plaid Cymru, if it had been, I don't know, fucking the Marxist brothers of Transylvania, it doesn't matter. Like, whatever political party is in power, if you have a 3-line whip, the whole point of having a 3-line whip is if you defy it, there are consequences, which may be losing parliamentary privileges of some kind, of party political privileges. It might be losing the whip. But yeah, okay, that's why they did that. So I think it was a bit disingenuous to say that about Labour's stance on the 2-child cap. And I do understand. I kind of hate the expression, to be fair, because people say it and they end up playing devil's advocate, and I don't want to play devil's advocate. I think Labour have been pretty shit so far. So let me just put my cards on the table. I think their comms are shit. They look like a shambles. They don't look like they've got their act together, and they don't do themselves any favours. That said, I can understand that in the first King's speech, having just been elected and having not looked into the economics of it all, or maybe just looked at it in a way that showed that they couldn't get rid of the 2-child cap even if they wanted to, because it would be economically disastrous, to get the economy into a position and to get taxes and welfare and everything into a position where you could get rid of it, might have taken a year. Okay, so it took a year, and they've done it now. Good. I'm glad they've fucking done it, right? Absolutely glad they've done it. But then to say that this was a politically cynical move, No, it's not. And I'll tell you why after reading David Faulkner's super chat. Thank you very much for the 38 Hong Kong dollars. We experienced the terrible Grenfell Tower inferno, a huge blaze engulfing apartments in Tai Po district in Hong Kong. Sadly, today the city is in mourning. Yeah, there's been dozens killed. There's hundreds still missing. This was an apartment block. It was like a number of buildings all connected, and they had bamboo scaffolding, which isn't unusual in China and other countries in East Asia. You see these buildings which have got bamboo scaffolding. The problem with bamboo scaffolding is it's flammable, but also it was covered in nylon, which is also very flammable. So essentially, there was flammable cladding on these buildings, and the same mistakes that we saw in Grenfell. People were being told to shelter in place, I believe, when no, they really needed to get the fuck out of there as quickly as possible. It's really, really grim. Here's hoping that the regulations for building and having things on the side of a building that is flammable, whether that is aluminium-based cladding like it was for Grenfell, or whether it's bamboo and nylon, we just take a step back and go, we've got to stop doing this. We have got to stop doing this. And my heart goes out to everyone in Hong Kong who's been caught up in this, and yeah, it's a really grim situation. Okay, so I'm going to go back to talking about the two-child benefit cap being lifted. This is not politically expedient for Labour. It really isn't. This stat that just blew my mind, that I saw the other day, 59% of people in the UK, when polled, say that we should keep the two-child benefit cap, right? 59%. So this is not a politically popular thing to do. But what's even more horrifying is when people were given a contextual example of someone who had a child and didn't know they were going to have a third child, or maybe they'd lost their husband or lost their wife, and then they married someone else who already had a child, and then suddenly they had 3 children, and they were given an example of a sob story, a story that could happen to anyone. And when they were given that example, 59% went up to 61% for keeping the two-child benefit cap. And this is something that we have to bear in mind. And this is why I'm a little less tub-thumping about rejoining the EU tomorrow, because we need to get the British population on side first. That's what we've got to do. Doesn't matter about what the Starmer says or what Reeves says or whatever. We need to get the public on side overwhelmingly to want to rejoin the EU, or there's just no point, because in 5 years' time, Nigel Farage's party will just take us out again, and we can't play the hokey cokey with the EU. The EU won't stand for it. They'll want to know that it is a settled political matter, and until we get a super majority of people saying we need to rejoin the EU, not 52%, it's not enough. We're not going to rejoin. So it's on us to, rather than complaining about the fact that the government aren't pursuing this, this desire that a lot of us have to rejoin the EU, the single market, the customs union. I think the main thing that we need to be doing is just talking to people in our lives that we know who voted for Brexit and try and get them on side for rejoining the EU after the disaster that it's been. An absolute fucking disaster. This kind of stat, I think people deserve refuck. It says Urbane Legends. Yeah, thanks for the super chat. But, we like to think the best of people, but there's a lot of fucking horrible people out there who are just horrible. Just horrible people. And we live in a democracy, unfortunately. As the Mannix once sang, democracy is an empty lie. Because if the overwhelming number of people who are, a dickheads, then you're going to have problems with your democracy, aren't you, Britain? Voting for Brexit. Aren't you, America? voting for Trump? Aren't you Argentina voting for Milei? You know, aren't you the Philippines voting for Dirty Duterte? And then voting for the Nepo baby son of fucking Imelda Marcos. Sorry. Just set a thumbnail for a live stream at 6 p.m. tonight. Hope you can join me. I need a big rant, says the Witchy Goth. Cool. See Dizzy Dizzle. I see the issues as people taking advantage of it. I would have raised the limit of the benefit cap. Until we have politics and stuff that's being taught correctly from a young age, it's like a losing battle. Yeah, but Liam, that's not even it. I went to university and studied politics at university, right? And you know, I had some good ones on my course. Judge Rinder, Rob Rinder, he was on my course. He was in the year above. And Johnny Reynolds, who's now the chief whip, he was the trade minister. He was in the year below, doing exactly the same degree as me. There were loads of people who had studied politics at A level and got an A, like myself, and gone to university, and they were fucking libertarians, mate. They were libertarians. They went to see the movie Ants. Ants, you know the movie Ants, about the ants rising up and kicking out the fucking grasshoppers. Yeah. Do you remember that movie, right? They read it as a fucking, as a libertarian fable. And I'm like, did we watch the same movie? Did we watch the same fucking movie? Because as far as I'm concerned, it was about the worker ants, literally worker ants, rising up to topple the oligarchy. But, you know, but yeah, just because people know more about politics, just because they're taught about civics in school, doesn't necessarily mean they're going to vote the right way. And I say this about, like, I lived in Australia for a while, and in Australia, they have compulsory voting, something that comes up here a lot. Oh, we should have compulsory voting. Because people look at the pie chart of who voted, and it's about a third vote for the twats, and then the about a third of people vote for twats light, and then a third of people don't vote. And they go, oh, if these people voted, then we would live in this, you know, we would live in this socialist utopia. I'm like, no. Look in Australia, where voting is compulsory, and they keep voting in their so-called Liberal Party, which is a Tory party. Again and again, get voted in. I'm just saying that, like, there is no perfect system of democracy. We could talk about PR. Oh, if we had PR, then we wouldn't have Nigel Farage doing well in the polls. And I'm like, okay. However, there are countries that do have PR that end up with Geert Wilders being in charge for some fucking reason. There are countries with PR where you end up with gobshites like Benjamin Netanyahu in positions of power because they team up. The right team up with the ultra fucking right to form a fucking government. And betting on the fact that 51% of people are going to vote the right way, vote the way that you want them to vote. I don't know. I get it. I get people's desire to change the system and to wish that we weren't the way that we are, but we are. A way that I would address the problems that we have in our democracy at the moment isn't necessarily by structural changes to our democratic system, which I agree is dysfunctional and doesn't fucking work properly and blah, blah, blah. But look, here's the thing, right? We don't control the means of communication. And while that continues to be the case, the right are always going to monster us because they own all the fucking newspapers. They own these newspapers. The Mail has just bought the Telegraph. All right. So you know how bad the Telegraph is? It's going to get worse. You have these monopolies running the means of communication. The world's richest man owns Twitter. The world's second richest man owns TikTok. The world's third richest man owns Facebook. And they're all right-wingers. They are all libertarians. They're all just fucking scumbags who want the rest of us to suffer so it makes their cherry on top of their fucking billionaire cake taste better. I think that's what we need to address, but we all have our own different priorities. We have our own, I don't know, bugbears. I go on about private schools a lot. I think it's fucking disgusting that we have a system where children are herded into different lives depending on how much wealth their parents have. While schools, comprehensive schools, are literally falling apart, just crumbling. They're crumbling, these schools. And meanwhile, the former prefect at Harrow or Winchester or Westminster School, they go, oh, well, I went here 50 years ago, so I'm going to give £57 billion to my old alma mater. Yes, right, that's what I'm going to do. Meanwhile, the local comp up the road is literally the ceiling's falling in. Kids don't have fucking textbooks. They don't have lockers to put the fucking textbooks in. They carry them around in the bags all day. Textbooks in the 1970s with cocks drawn on every other page. Sorry for drawing all those cocks on the page, but it was funny at the time. And that's got to stop. But that's my little fucking crusade. That's me. They're my windmills that I'm tilting at. And we all have our own thing. But I just think overall, if Labour could just do one really, really good thing right now, it's to clamp down on these owners of the means of communication. Make it so you have to be British. You can't put stuff that's lies. If you lie on the front cover of your newspaper, then for the next 5 days, the front cover of your newspaper can be nothing else but an apology for that lie. Not buried on page 37 at the bottom. Retraction. Yeah, we said that this was the... None of that. No. And if you lie hard enough, you hack the phones of a dead schoolgirl, a murdered schoolgirl, you go to fucking jail. Like the rest of us would if we did that. Urbane Legends, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. You need to do both. The powers that be have led us to a crisis in democracy. We need reforms of the system and complete regulation overhaul of the media. Yeah, but what I'm saying, Urbane Legends, thanks for the super chat, is I think that the system that we have, as shonky and as infuriating as it is, would be okay. I'm not saying it'd be perfect, because no democratic system is perfect, because it's made up of humans, and humans are squishy and stupid and do daft things, and they panic and make bad decisions, which we all do, We all do. People want to stop humans from being sad. They need to make a law where it is illegal to fall in love with the wrong person. I think that's going to happen anytime soon, but that's just the way that is the system that we have in this country. I know it's not great, but there's also the thing about putting the cart before the horse. I don't think we can have political reform in this country until we reform the media, until we reform media and social media, so people aren't fed an unleavened diet of bullshit every day. And I guess once you've fed bullshit for every day for 30 years, it becomes an acquired taste, and people fucking crave it. They crave it, which is really grim. Understandable, but there's also things I can't physically buy anymore or get through the legal systems just to return some of that guilt. I'm literally preventing losing art or things I love. Sorry to hear that, Liam. Also, I'm fairly I don't really use the word libertarian, but I believe in the right of an individual to make a sane adult to make decisions about themselves, and that covers tattoos, piercings, abortions, drug taking, drinking, euthanasia. It is your body. It's the one thing in life that you should truly own, and you should be able to do with this meat skeleton with a ghost inside fucking controlling it. That's what you should own. Anything else in your life can be taken from you. But the idea that I could look at 10 years of suffering on the way on the road to my inevitable demise, I'd rather not take the suffering, thank you very much. It's a kindness that we afford to animals. They get put to sleep. But I don't have that option. And now the euthanasia bill, Kim Leadbeater's euthanasia bill, is being held up by the fucking House of fucking Lords, the unelected House of Lords. They're holding it up with 1,000 amendments. Motherfuckers. Urbane, thank you for the £5 super chat. To disagree with me, fast past the post leaves too many people feeling correctly that the vote doesn't count and becoming Depoliticized makes them easy marks. Well, I would agree to a certain extent, but like, what happened to the Red Wall? It collapsed in 2019. And then it came back. It's a bit of a shit wall, really, isn't it? You've had, in the last election, we had over 200 seats, 300 seats, I think. 300 seats changed hands from one political party to another. People's vote counted. People used tactical voting, and they made their vote count. They may have voted for the least worst option, but really, if you have an alternative vote system, that's the same thing, really. You can vote for who you really want to vote for. Vote for your heart for someone you know that's not going to win. Vote for the Monster Raven Looney Party and Count Binface. But then your third vote or your fourth vote goes to Labour, or it goes to the Greens, or it goes to the Lib Dems, or it goes to SNP or Plaid Cymru. It's the same thing, isn't it? Tactical voting. Here's who I want to vote. I can't. Well, I can symbolically put a fucking number down in front of them and say, yeah, I want them. They're my number one. But you know they're not going to win. You know it's actually going to be your third vote or your fourth vote that's actually going to count in an alternative vote system, which is a form of PR. So there's all different flavors of PR as well. Which one's going to work best? So the Welsh Assembly is going PR. And the next elections will be a PR election. Should be interesting. We'll see what happens. I don't have a problem with reforming the political system. I just don't think that it is as urgent as some people think that it is. I might be wrong on that, but from my experience, knocking on doorsteps, I've never heard anyone say that we need to reform the voting system. I think us lot, people who are into politics and people who watch shows talking about politics on the internet, we are a bit, adamant as we are about rejoining the EU, etc. But voters don't seem to give a fuck, to be honest with you. So yeah, Femi and I disagree on this. He thinks that voting reform is the most important thing. Me and Phil Morehouse disagree on the fact that he thinks that we should have compulsory voting, and I don't think that we should, because I just don't see the point. Just don't see the point. If people not voting is a vote. It's a vote not to participate. And I don't think it should be forced on people. If you don't like football, why should you have to go and watch a football match? Once every 5 years. Go on, you got to watch a football match. Why? It's your fucking duty. It's your duty. I'd rather ill-informed people don't make a choice. I'd rather, instead of making an ill-informed choice, I'd rather they made no choice at all. Or the choice is stay at home and watch the telly on that Thursday when we have the election. Sky News, net migration down by 69%, would be down a lot more if reciprocal freedom of movement was restored. Yeah, but they included didn't they include the freedom of movement people in the figures? Most people only care about how things directly affect them. We have a media telling these people what is affecting them and not what should be. Yeah, Liam, that's a really good point. And also, it's worth noting that when you ask people, right, what the most important thing is, right, the most important issue facing the country, by and large, they will tell you whatever the media is telling them. Okay, so right now, it's migration. A few years ago, it might be trans people using a toilet. A few years before then, it might be the EU. A few years before that, it wouldn't be the EU or trans people or migrants because it wasn't a big thing. Because the newspapers didn't say it was a big thing. But here's the thing. If you ask people what the most important thing affecting them is, it's cost of living. Every time. Every fucking time. Cost of living. NHS. Education. The potholes in the fucking roads. The stuff that affects them. So we've got to hope that people vote in a way that makes them think about what affects them, I guess. We're doing a bumper show today. We've got oh no. I was gonna remind everyone that we could get confetti with just a few more super chats, but the goal has ended. The goal has ended, isn't that sad? I'm gonna do it again. actually, no, I'll do. Oh no. Oh fuck. I've just set the goal to 10. I was meant to set it to 5. Yeah, let's just get rid of this. Remove goal. Don't give me money. Okay. Remove the goal. Goal successfully disabled. because I fucked that up. 5 super chats. Come on, let's be reasonable, Graham. 1 hour. You're getting a bumper show today. You're getting a bumper show. A bumpy bumper show. Right, okay, so 5 super chats in the next hour, if I continue to ramble on that long, will grant you, your wish is granted. It will grant you confetti. And also I'll keep talking. Because I'm honestly, how many sections have I got here? I've got 8 sections. I'm up to section 3. And I've been rabbiting on now for an hour and 5 minutes. Sorry, everyone. Okay, so we were talking about the cost of living, weren't we? The £150 off move, the 2-child limit abolished, minimum wage increases. So from 18 to 20-year-olds, their minimum wage has gone up to £10.85 from £10. National living wage has gone up from £12.21 to £12.71. And this is great because it means an extra £1,000 at least a year for people working a 40-hour work week, which is fantastic. NHS and schools, there's going to be money for secondary school libraries and 18 million for playgrounds, which is great. These are small, but they are symbolic investments. They mentioned the library thing in the last spring statement, so I don't really know why they were bringing that back, but whatever. Ms. Paula Thomas, thank you for the £5 super chat. I think there should be compulsory voting with an abstention box. Oh yeah, okay. Well, I mean, some people think that there should be compulsory voting. I personally don't, because I've experienced it. I didn't have to vote myself because I was a foreigner living in the country, but I don't think that I don't think that people who can't or won't make an informed decision on something should be making an informed decision. Should be making an uninformed decision, I should say. Should be forced to make a decision when you don't know. I don't think we should have had a referendum about fucking Brexit. I really don't think we should have done that. And that was a fucking disgrace because people weren't informed enough. I wasn't informed enough. I know that sounds really arrogant to say I wasn't informed enough, but I was one of the very, very few people in the country at the time who not only had a degree from Manchester University in politics, right, but also had visited every single country in the EU. Many of them on multiple occasions. But and also every country in the world. But that's not the point. The point is, I should have been more informed, and I probably was more informed than your average bloke on the street. However, I didn't feel qualified to vote in that referendum. I made an uninformed decision. I informed myself as best I could, but I didn't know. I didn't. The shit that came out after that referendum, the next day, the most Googled search term was, what is the EU? Spoke volumes. So I'd rather people made no decision than fucking an ill-informed decision. And forcing people to do something doesn't mean they're going to like it all of a sudden. They're going to be like, yeah, I really like politics. I'm going to take much more of an interest in it now that I'm forced to take part in it. It'll just get people's backs up. Just make them more resentful. And again, they won't necessarily vote the way you want them to. If you think about it, right, let's talk about the third. So you have the third vote the evil party, the third vote the evil light party, a third vote don't vote, right? The third who don't vote, the vast majority of those people who don't vote are not voting because they don't feel informed. They're not involved in politics. Politics is not a big thing in their life, right? As far as they're concerned, and I know that you can make the argument that politics affects everyone, so you should take an interest, but people just don't, okay? They will make an ill-informed decision. Why do you want that? Why do you want, Paula, why do you want millions of people to make a decision in this country that is ill-informed? They'll just vote for the person whose name they recognise, or the name at the top, or whatever, or the guy who's been the most racist. I'd rather that people who are ill-informed and not interested in politics don't screw up the system by making a decision that they don't really have any prior knowledge on why they're making that decision. I don't think voting should be compulsory, but I also think it should be easy if people want to do it. I don't agree with voting ID. I think it's fucking ridiculous. To stop the voting fraud that doesn't fucking happen. The 2 cases of vote fraud that we've had in the last 2,000 years in this country. Quick, make everyone have. So if people want to vote, make it as easy as possible. I think we should start online voting. Why you should have to leave the house. But again, I don't think forcing people who are ill-informed to make that decision is a good idea, because they'll just vote for the Tories. Because that's what happens in Australia. Anyway, so yeah, apprenticeships and welfare. This is free apprenticeships for small and medium enterprises. This is fucking fantastic. And reforms to universal credit, expecting to bring 15,000 people into work. This is about boosting productivity, but also it's fantastic for young people who are doing apprenticeships. And then we've got the cuts to Motability tax breaks, risk backlash from disabled groups. But the Motability cuts have been more to do with this idea that we have to stop disabled people from getting luxury cars. So they've removed like BMWs from the carpool that you can choose from. But the amount of money that they're given towards a car adaptation for them to be able to use the car is going to stay the same. I don't really get this one. It's a bit, someone wants to explain it to me. Like I am an idiot. Feel free, my friends. And then tobacco and alcohol. So the tobacco RPI has gone up 2%, and standard escalators, nothing surprising there. Tobacco and alcohol going up as standard in these budgets. And then we've got how the papers reacted, which I want to talk about. The tax raid, socialism, Labour clobbering strivers, people who strive. Hard workers. I love this one. So they've changed working people to hard working people. Do you see the dog whistle there? Do you see the sound of people who don't earn as much, obviously don't work as hard? Yeah. There you go. Oh, has Pete got a squeaky tank for me? Oh, brilliant. Here we go. Voting should be done on a Sunday. Lots of people in work most of the day. Get home and can't be arsed, says Martin. Yeah, again, I agree with Martin. I think it should be made as easy as possible to vote. Under compulsory voting, I reckon some people will just vote for whoever has the funniest name. Haha, he's called Mike Socks Long. He'll get my vote. Tommy, agreed. And this is why I think if you force people to do stuff, they'll fuck it up. Out of spite for being forced to do something that they don't want to do. Andrew says, still reeling from yesterday's PMQ. My Lib Dem MP harps on about old news inheritance tax because we're in a farming county. She is buying Tory votes. It's not a Lib Dem issue, and farmers voted for Brexit. Yep, they did. The turkeys did indeed vote for Thanksgiving, which is today. I thought the EU referendum was a distraction from something else. Don't know what, to be honest, at the time. The EU referendum wasn't a distraction, Tommy. The EU referendum was brought about because the Tories were worried about losing vote share to UKIP. That's it. And there was a Tory civil war going on amongst the people, the Eurosceptics in the party, who hated the idea of being part of Europe, and the sensible people who were like, actually, it's a boon. It makes us £2 billion a week that we wouldn't have if we weren't part of the EU. Gallifreyan says, the funny thing is I'm one of the benefit claimants and I strive in my own way. I'm working around mental and physical illness to write a novel. How much more striving can I get? Exactly, Gallifreyan. You're absolutely right. And the idea that some people work harder than others and deserve more is just bullshit. It's demonstrably bullshit. These people who work on the board of directors who come in as a consultant, do 1 hour's worth of work, sitting in a fucking board meeting, listen to someone else talk, and then they say like one thing at the end and walk out and collect a massive fucking paycheck for £1,000 for turning up. Yeah, that's not hard work. With Brexit, I knew what would happen with logistics because I worked in logistics in South Africa and I knew the costs involved, says the witchy goth. Yes. And last election, says L, I know someone uninformed who said I had a dilemma at the ballot box, Lib Dem or Reform, whatever called. I went with Reform for a change. I said, you're in an LGBT bar. Wow, L. Exactly. Uninformed votes, not worth the paper that they are scrawled on. You encourage people to vote by engaging people and making people feel like they're involved and important, not forcing votes on people. Nick and Diff, hard agree with that. Yes. Yeah. Tommy says, I was a bit of a conspiracy theorist 10 years ago when the referendum happened. Funnily enough, the referendum was what got me interested in politics when I was 21. Well, that's another thing as well. No one born this century was actually allowed to vote in that referendum. Brexit was also a classic bait and switch. Farage didn't stop bleating. Let's be like Norway in 2016. Yeah. Graham, in Australia, you did have to turn out the poll. What happens on the ballot paper is another thing. Draw a cock on the balance is like you're not forced to vote. Okay, Jim Bob Robob. You're splitting hairs there. You are forced to get off your arse and go. If you are an Australian living in London, you are forced to go to the Australian embassy and fucking vote on voting day. You have to, or you get a fine. You have to give a letter off your mum saying why you couldn't attend. Get a letter off your doctor. But yes, you don't have to vote for a particular party, but you do have to turn up and you have to scroll something on a piece of paper. You do have to turn up. But yeah, I agree with Nick and Dave that if you are forced to engage in politics, you are going to make it. That it's not the best way. It's not the best way. Make people feel like they're being listened to. Make them feel like they've got a voice. See Dizzy Dizzle, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. Do you reckon we will rejoin the EU? I was returning home from Amsterdam the day Brexit results came in. It was very wounding. Yes, I do think we will rejoin the EU, but I don't think it's going to happen till the 2030s at the earliest, and it might be the late 2030s. I'll probably be in my fucking 60s by the time we actually rejoin the fucking thing. The reason I say that, see Dizzy Dizzle, is I don't think this is about political will. I don't think it's about economic reality. I think it's just about demographics. There's just loads of old people who love Brexit more than they love their own grandchildren. They just do. And they wonder why the grandchildren moved to Australia to get away from them. There you go. $20 fine. You can't whinge about not having a say. For a hot minute during COVID, we understood who worked hard in important jobs. Where are the pan bangers now? Very, very good point. Nick says single market and reciprocal freedom of movement first. Yeah. But I think that's going to be a second term Labour policy. And I don't know if Labour are going to get a second term the way they're heading. If they're smart, and they're not, what they'll do is they'll keep Starmer and Reeves on for an extra couple of years, and they can do all the unpopular stuff, all the stuff that pisses people off, right? Get the foundation sorted, and then swap out for I don't know, Andy in 2027, 28. Swap out the leader for someone a bit more popular. And then they can blame anything bad that they've done on the previous administration, on the previous leader, and pretend that we're starting again. That's what the Tories do all the time. Don't forget, ladies and gents, the Tory party went from getting 7% of the vote in the EU elections in May of 2019 to getting a 80-seat majority in the December of that year in a general election. What did they do? They changed the leader. Labour could pull off the same trick. They genuinely could. But we'll see. Mr. No Single Market, No Freedom of Movement in my lifetime probably needs to go first. Yeah. Harry Flashman says, I'm 67. I fucking hate Brexit. So just before we go on, I do need to just put the disclaimer. Not all boomers. So yeah, just to go back to the papers. These are the same papers that praised Truss's mini budget, which tanked the pound, which spiked mortgages, nearly broke the economy. You know, hypocrisy is the central theme of these newspapers today. The narrative, simplification, tax freeze equals tax rise equals Labour betrayal. And the press collapses nuances because outrage sells. Look at it. Spiteful, strivers, lavish. Look at the words that they have chosen. just to drive everyone who reads the Daily Mail, who are angry people anyway. They are very angry people. I've met some people who read the Mail and they're very angry all the time, possibly because they read the Mail. I don't know if it's a vicious circle, but, you know, whatever. Ms. Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. It's odd because the same people voted to stay in 1975 referendum, in which a super majority of people, 65%, voted to stay in what was then the EEC. I think a lot of them would have been the greatest generation. I think the boomers of that age, a lot of them, ones that I've spoken to who voted to remain in 1975 and then voted to leave in 2016, they trotted out this narrative of betrayal because they said, I thought it was just an economic thing. I thought it was just a market thing. I think it was just a trade thing. But then it became more political. And it's like, no, they said at the time, and you can pull out articles from the Daily Mail, which supported staying in the EEC, saying that this would be this was towards an ever closer union. That's the word they use, a closer union. And obviously, if you have a system where all these countries have to agree on labeling for goods, for instance, and standardization, you have to have some kind of political system where they meet up, where representatives from these countries meet up and they decide on what they're going to do. Now, what's fairer? What is a better system? A system in which we have diplomats, trade experts going to the EU and discussing things behind closed doors, or we have a parliament where people from all over Europe elect their representatives. They meet up and they thrash out what the rules should be. And don't forget, the EU is by and large ruled by consensus, especially if they get a trade deal in. Don't forget, it was the farmers of Walloon who held up the EU-Canada trade deal. One tiny part of a, well, not tiny part, but a big part of a tiny country, right? The bottom half of Belgium. The farmers there, so a minority of a minority of a minority of held it up and said, no, we want to change this bit. When it came to the Lisbon Treaty, the people in Ireland looked at it and went, we don't like this. The stuff in this we don't like. And they had the referendum and they rejected it. So they rewrote the treaty and they gave it back to the Irish people and said, what do you think now? And they went, yeah, that's better. And they voted for it. Now, Nigel Farage turned that into a weapon and said, oh, well, they just vote on stuff until they get the answer that they want. Yeah, that's democracy. That's democracy for you. And I even said, when we were getting the run up to the Brexit referendum, and I felt the same way about the Scottish referendum. You'll get people calling for a referendum every year until they get the result they want, and then the referendums stop. If Scotland gets independence, right, 10 years hence, I don't think they're going to have another referendum to go back to the European, the United Kingdom. They're just not, are they? And that's exactly what the Brexit shitters did. If it had gone the other way, and Farage said on the eve of the Brexit referendum, he said if it was 48-52 towards staying in the EU, there'll be a lot of unfinished business. Do you think they would have stopped calling for another referendum in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, 15 years? No, they fucking wouldn't. They'll keep calling for it until they get the result they want, and then suddenly that's democracy done. We're not going to even revisit this idea, because it's what the people want. No, it's what dickheads wanted in 9 years ago, because they were lied to by the evil poison tabloid press, which told them that if they left the EU, it'll all be fucking sunshine, sunlit uplands. That's what they were told. Sunlit uplands. £350 million for the NHS. Where the fuck is that? Where is it? Martin Harrow, I can sense Diz starting to panic. Don't panic, Diz. It's all right. Look, Reeves didn't go full Marxist, although looking at the headlines, I think that they seem to think that she did, or at least they want their readers to think that she did. She could have nationalised everything from the Sun newspaper to fucking Greg's. She didn't. That the newspapers would still be the same thing. She could have reintroduced the 95% tax on millionaires, but the Mail implies that she already has. She could have announced UBI, a 4-day weekend, free childcare, free rail travel. The press reaction doesn't depend on political reality. It depends on who's in government. If the Tories have brought out this exact same budget, the newspapers would have been like, how generous, how kind, the big-hearted Tories. Oh, Mr. Hunt, you're so generous. Thank you, Mr. Hunt. How kind, how benevolent of the Tories to get rid of the 2-child benefit cap. How wonderful it is that they didn't put up the rate of tax on income. But instead, we get tax raid horror. We get, So this budget is fiscally conservative. It continues some of the Conservatives' own fucking policies. It's market friendly. The markets didn't go bananas. The gilt yields didn't go bananas. The markets didn't fucking crash. The fucking pound didn't collapse. It's structurally cautious, but the press are framing it like it's 1917 all over again. The Bolsheviks just taking power. It just shows the right-wing bias of the entire British media ecosystem. And just compare how they treated trusts. They called their mini budget bold and Reaganite and pro-growth. It was lauded by the Mail, lauded by Nigel fucking Farage. The actual income, pensions almost collapsed, mortgage rates exploded, UK gilts jumped, the Bank of England had to intervene. The worst economic event since Black Wednesday. And they were celebrating. At last, a true Tory budget. That was the front cover of the Daily Mail on the day. At last, a true Tory budget. Bit inconsistent, old chap, But Labour's playing this cautiously. There's a fear of the markets going bananas after what Truss did. And there's a fear of Tory tabloids shaping public opinion. And the fear of being seen as tax and spend. But it doesn't matter what you do. You got to be looked at as tax and spend anyway. So you may as well tax and fucking spend. To quote the guy from Politics Joe, tax until the fucking pips squeak. And then we've got the economic forecasts. The growth for 2025 is 1.5%, up from 1%, but the 2026 onwards has been downgraded. It's now 1.4 to 1.5 instead of 1.7 to 1.9. However, it's still going up, and also Rachel Reeves is gambling, I think, a little bit that the economy will do better than than the OBR expects. The OBR has been wrong before, especially when it comes to fractions of a percent. It could happen. In 2025, the inflation has been higher than expected, but they're hoping in 2026 that we should see it go down to 2.5%, and then hopefully hitting the 2% target, which is what the Bank of England's been calling for. And then we've got the borrowing and debt. Borrowing peaking is going to peak at 138 billion, which is the amount that we are going to be paying for day-to-day borrowing for day-to-day expenses. Okay, this isn't capital spending on big mega projects. This is just day-to-day. Borrowing for day-to-day isn't a great idea, and the idea is that borrowing is going to peak and then it's going to fall to almost half that. Apparently, we'll see what happens. And talking of seeing what's going to happen, Rachel Reeves projected a surplus in 2029. Be good if it happens, but events, my dear, events. So in Scotland and Wales, billions of worth of spending has been announced. £505 million in Wales, 820 million in Scotland. Labour obviously trying to show up support ahead of the 2026 local elections and regional elections. In Wales and Scotland. There's going to be AI zones that have been announced for Wales. Infrastructure upgrades announced for Scotland, targeting the industrial strategy. Northern Ireland is going to get an extra 370 million for the Northern Ireland Executive. And North Sea, new fossil fuel projects allowed if tied to existing fields. So this isn't about doing new drilling for new oil. This is stuff that's already there. This is this kind of like pragmatic green position, but I just see it as greenwashing. I don't think we're spending any money on oil at all. It is a dead fucking fuel. It is a dead, dirty, disgusting fuel, and we should be moving away from it as quickly as humanly possible. She made promises on cutting the red tape on nuclear investment. This is hard to deliver. Look, decades of delay undermine credibility, but don't forget the fossil fuel companies. They fund green energy, not energy, the green eco objections to nuclear power, because they see nuclear power as one of the biggest threats to them and their bottom line with their filthy, toxic, foreign black slime that they want to force us all to drink and smear all over our roads and fill our cars with and heat our homes with, right? Nuclear power is a big threat to them. And so they actually fund, in the same way that oil companies fund 80% of all transphobic content in America comes from oil companies. Cheers for that, oil companies. They also fund, weirdly enough, eco projects to object against nuclear power. And so a lot of this red tape, if you drill down it, if you listen to Deep Throat and follow the money, you find out that it's actually the oil companies who are trying to get people to not trying to get governments not to build nuclear power. They make it very difficult. And also the public's attitude towards nuclear power, which is that it's dead dangerous and it kills loads of people. The reality is it's safer than coal. It's safer than gas. It is a lot safer than oil. Oil rig goes up, it kills people on the oil rig. It kills the fucking all the fish in the sea. The Fukushima nuclear power plant it resulted in one death, and that was the guy who committed suicide out of embarrassment about being in charge of the fucking plants. No one died of radiation poisoning. I'm not saying that nuclear power is dead safe, but it is comparatively safer than fossil fuels. Those ships that carried, I've spoken about this before, right? Liquid natural gas, right? Comes from Qatar. About half our supply comes from Qatar these days, an insane amount. And they come on these ships, and you'll see them. So a normal standard tanker or cargo ship, it's a long thing. It's got the bridge at the back, which sits up, and then you can see all the front of it, right? You'll see the gas carriers because they will have 2 or 3 of these domes, right? These spherical domes. And inside those domes is cooled gas. So the gas is cooled down, so it is a liquid, right? And to do that takes a lot of energy. They have to burn a lot of bunker oil, which is what these ships use. An imagine like an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Now imagine that is made of the dirtiest oil, right? This is the oil that, when you take your car in for an oil change and you take the bolt out underneath and the oil comes through into the drip tray. Something you don't have to do in an electric car, but that's by the by. You know that, right? That kind of oil. Imagine an entire Olympic-sized swimming pool filled with that oil. That's how much oil you'll burn getting your burn, right? And the leftover stuff they just dump into the ocean. Because once you're in international waters, there's no restriction on what you can just dump. So they just dump all this bunker oil into the water. Ships do it all the fucking time. The leftover shit, the stuff they couldn't burn, the witches they couldn't burn. And so to get from Qatar to Felixstowe, you use that much bunker oil, an Olympic-sized swimming pool worth of bunker oil. But the thing is that the actual containers, right, on these ships, you are allowed no naked flames anywhere near these ships. You are not allowed. You're not allowed to have a mobile phone out on deck. You are not allowed to have anything that's got a battery in it. They've got to have special torches that they use at night. They've got to have special lighting systems. They've got to have special electrical systems on these ships. Because if one of these motherfuckers blows up, it will burn the skin off someone standing 30 miles away. That is just fucking insane. You will see, well, maybe not 30 miles. I think that's a bit of exaggeration. I'm going to have to look this up now because it's annoying me that I don't know the actual stat on what if gas ship blows up? What if gas ship blows up? Let's see what Google's. Massive fire or boiling liquid, expanding vapor explosion, which causes severe property damage and casualties over a large area. Boiling liquid, expanding vapor explosion is a catastrophic failure where a vessel containing pressurized liquid ruptures, causing the liquid to flash into a larger vapor that can ignite explosively. The effects are devastating with potential for severe thermal radiation and blast damage over a wide area. The forced explosion of fire could cause severe injuries, including third-degree burns, traumatic brain injuries, and injuries from flying debris. How far would explosion go? This is from the internet. It might not be true. Wow. 1 to 1.25 miles. So yeah, not 30 miles. I don't know why I said 30 miles. And then I thought about it when I said it, and I thought, hang on, that's the distance from Liverpool to Manchester. That's nonsense. So someone standing a mile away would have the skin burnt off their body. So if you're looking out at the tanker in the water, and you're a mile away standing on the beach, and that tanker explodes, that is fucking crazy. That is fucking crazy. 2 kilometers away. That is fucking crazy. And you would have, audibility. So this is where it's getting the 30 miles away. It would be heard up to 30 miles away. The boom would be heard up to 30 miles away. Wow. It almost like a nuclear explosion going off. You know, in Beirut, when that warehouse went up with all the fertilizer in it, that would be it. That would be just fucking insane. That's how dangerous these boats are. And none of them have blown up so far. But then again, none of our nuclear power plants have blown up either. But they could, and if they did, it'd be really bad, like in Chernobyl or in Fukushima. Yeah, it would be bad. But I met people who wouldn't eat fish anymore because of Fukushima. And I was like, what? Oh, yeah, the fish are all radioactive now. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure if they're radioactive, they would fucking sell them. Like, you couldn't buy radioactive fish even if you wanted to, because it would kill you. Just obviously. But there you go. We talk about small nuclear reactors as if they are new. They've been around since the 1960s. What do you think nuclear-powered submarines use? Yeah. Get the Trident submarines, fucking plug them in. Light up the whole of Brighton. We had a lovely, big, clean nuclear reactor on our planetary doorstep, but the fossil fuel industry won't allow us the technology to fully exploit it. Are you talking about the sun? Are you talking about the sun? We don't even have military weapons doing 30 miles worth of area damage. Yeah, sorry, Liam. I was getting it mixed up because I remember seeing the 30 miles thing and I was like, yeah, burn your skin off. You could hear it 30 miles away. Be sensible. But a mile away, it would burn your skin off. Wow. That's crazy, isn't it? That is crazy. A ship full of sprouts is a wonderful thing. So back to the budget. We are also going to see business rates. There's going to be a cuts on business rates for 750,000 retail, hospitality, and leisure businesses. This is an attempt to revive the high street, and there's going to be higher rates on properties over £500,000 used by the warehouse giants. This is an anti-Amazon policy. Good. Entrepreneurial schemes. We're going to see stamp duty holiday for newly listed companies with a 40% investment write-off. This is to encourage UK listings and also a post-Brexit capital flight backdrop has to be taken into account. And then we've got this thing which Trump has done in America, and they've done it over here now as well. Customs duties on all parcels, duty applied to parcels of any value. This is to stop Temu and Shein undercutting high street retailers and bringing fucking slop, plastic slop into our country that we don't need. So this is going to make it so fast fashion doesn't get the leg up that it no longer has the leg up that it has over high street businesses. Okay, so let's talk about the bigger picture. This budget was cautious, it was technocratic, it was centre-left, but not radical. Rachel Reeves wants the optics of competence, not the ideology. The winners on this with low-paid families, hard-working, low-paid families, families hit by the 2-child limit, public services, renters who gain from NHS investments. The losers are higher earners with pension loopholes. Oh no. EV owners, not losing out that much. I mean, honestly, 300 quid a year. What's that? It's fuck all, isn't it? That's fuck all. That's like £25 a month. I don't care. Honestly. All right. Paid more than that for fucking Adobe. Which I use less than my car. Also, wealthy property owners are going to be losing out. Oh no, my heart. Oh, it's bleeding. I'm dying. I'm dying of a broken. And savers over 12. Savers who want to save over £12,000 a year. Again, if you can save over £12,000 a year, you're doing all right. You're doing all right. The press coverage, though, apocalyptic. The political reality, incremental rather than apocalyptic. Media treats Labour like they're delivering fucking Soviet collectivism, even when they're just like extending a Tory stealth tax for an extra couple of years. So there you go. What do you think? I mean, I think that Reeves should have gone bolder because the upshot would have been a shellacking in the press anyway. I think she should have just gone for it. Come on. Go on. Put us back in the single market. Just do it. Don't have to ask anyone. You're in power. You got 150 fucking seat majority. Just fucking say it. Right, we rejoin the single market. We're bringing in universal basic income. We're abolishing private schools. And yeah, you know, the papers, the reaction to this, it just shows everything that's wrong with our media ecosystem. It's just fucked. It's absolutely fucked. There's no sense of proportionality at all. Yeah. Yeah, so here we are. Okay, so I'm gonna jump into the chat now just to see what people are saying. Love Bubble and Squeak, says Diz. Hey. And if we get 2 more super chats in, we'll be able to launch the confetti cannon. Let's launch the confetti cannon. The issue I find with electric cars is you can't travel far, and if you need to charge it, you have to wait for ages, and that wouldn't be convenient at the current level. Dizzy, if you've got a bladder that can last for 8 hours on the road, then awesome. But the rest of us mortals need a break after about 3 hours. In fact, our car tells you, like, you need a coffee break, and it has a little picture of a coffee. Take a break. It says after driving for 3 hours, and then you have a coffee, and it takes 20 minutes to charge the car up, which is about the time it takes to get a coffee in Starbucks these days. So you have your coffee, and then you drink your coffee, and you go out and your car's charged. Or you go into Greg's and eat a fucking pasty, and it's 20 minutes. You go for a piss, eat a pasty, go past the fucking bog troll on the way in. J.K. Rowling checking everyone's genitals on the way in, like the fucking lunatic that she is. Range anxiety is something that was invented by the fossil fuel industry, along with things like what's it called? Your carbon footprint, that was made up by them. Greenwashing. This idea of carbon capture, that was made up by them. And anything mentioning hydrogen in any shape or form, that was made up by them as well. All of the shit that you hear about how dangerous nuclear power is compared with other kinds of power, that comes from them as well. Wind turbines killing birds, that comes from them. Don't believe it. It's bullshit. If you can drive for 600 miles without stopping, then Okay, there must be something really, really, really important that you need to be driving for. But most of us on this island that couldn't drive 600 miles in one direction if we tried, because we'll probably end up in the sea if we did. This range anxiety is bollocks. We've had an electric car now for 2 years. We do regular trips to Liverpool, and it's never, ever been a problem. It's just not been a problem. It just hasn't. 20 minutes. 20 minutes. And when's Graham and Phil's budget scan? Thank you very much for the £2 super chat, Andrew. That's tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll be talking about the budget, even though I just talked about it today. Well, today I was trying to not talking maybe about the budget so much. I wanted to sort of focus on the tabloid reaction to it, which was just bonkers, and I just wanted to focus on that really. But yeah, we will get into the nitty gritty tomorrow and what worked and what didn't. My EV suggested I needed a break before I got to the end of the street one time. So I was, yeah, sometimes it does that. Maybe you were just driving like an idiot. Maybe you were driving on the wrong side of the road. I get this thing that flashes up that says drive in the middle of the road. Drive in the middle of your lane or something. That flashes up a lot to me. Fuck off. There's no car coming the other way. I'm not driving with 2 fucking tyres in the gutter because of all the fucking potholes. It's like this, boom, 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 for the poor passenger sitting on that side. No, I'm gonna drive a little bit more in the middle. If there's no one coming the other way, you know what? If someone else is coming the other way. But another thing that our car does, which is the active avoidance thing, which is so annoying. You have to turn it off every time you use the car because it's stupid. It's had an update actually, and since the update, it's not been so bad. But you'll be driving and you'll be overtaking parked cars on the left of the fucking car, on the left of the road, right? And you'd go round the parked car, so you're crossing the middle lane to go round the park, and the steering wheel's trying to turn you into the parked cars, and you're pushing. Petrol cars have the same thing now as well. It's a government mandate; they have to have it. This active avoidance thing, and it's like it can't cope with different situations on the road. And again, this is why I think that robo taxis are things that they're always going to have problems with, especially in a country that's full of fucking rain and sleet as this one. What were we? A temperate rainforest here. Stranger Things came out at 1 o'clock this morning. Unfortunately, my partner is at work today, Kat, so I can't watch it till she gets back this evening. So until then, no spoilers, please. As was repeatedly warned, Brexit was a massive impact of economic self-harm. We could mitigate some of this by joining the single market and customs union, says Ian Blackford, which I agree with. I like Ian. I like him. And Nick says Ian Blackford is spot on, although 90 billion a year is a lot more than some mitigation. Yeah, it's easier to charge an EV than to get Boris Johnson on a charge. Well, what about Trump? They dropped the charges for the phone call he made where he called up the governor of a state, Georgia, and asked for 11,870 more votes. And he's got away with it. He's got away with robbing those documents. He's got away with January the 6th. All the people who perpetrated January 6th got away with it as well. My raging sense of injustice meter is off the fucking charts. Off the fucking charts. Okay, so I'm going to go in a moment. But before I do, if someone wants to be very, very kind to Diz, not to me, obviously, but they want to be very, very kind to Diz and wants to drop in a super chat, we will have confetti. We're on 4 out of 5. We only need 1 more, and we will have confetti. So if anyone wants to do that before I wrap up, because I'm going to wrap up very, very soon, I tell you. If you wanna go, yeah, we will get confetti. We will be blessed. We will be blessed with confetti. Black Rod is a great porn star name, says Steve. Yeah. There is a road where I live up on hill and it turns right on top of parked cars. Car slams on the brakes every time because it thinks you're driving parked cars. So annoying. Yes. Yeah, when the car slams on the fucking brakes, when you're parking and there's a tree branch, that's not actually going to injure your car, and you sort of park, and then suddenly the car slams the brakes on because it thinks it's hitting something. You're like, it's a branch, you stupid fucking car. So yeah, if we get 1 more super chat, we will be very excited because then we will get confetti. But before we do that, I'm just going to say thanks for watching today, obviously. And also, I might return at 6 p.m. tonight. I haven't got anything lined up yet. I was going to do something, but that's kind of fallen through. But if we can do something today at 6 o'clock, we will. And I feel like I should move it to 7 o'clock now. So I'm not bumping into anybody else. But if I'm not managed, if you want to know whether we're doing a show or not, simply hit the subscribe button, give us a like on the way out, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell notification icon, and that will allow you to find out if we are doing a show at 6 o'clock tonight. If not, I'll see you tomorrow at 9 o'clock, bright and early, for another show. Big bumper show today. 1 hour and 50 minutes. Wow. Tommy says, my porn star name was Johnny the Length. Nick and Div says, lane assist is not as annoying as those new beeping speed limiters. Very sensitive. Yeah, also, when you try to park and your car beeps at you like a motherfucker and goes out like the fucking, the beep that sounds like your car's dead because it's flatlined. Beep! And you're like, oh my God, shit, am I hitting something? And you're like a foot away from the car next to you. That's kind of annoying. Modern cars are annoying. Ernie, legal channel Trump's illegality. It listed Trump's illegality. It took 5 minutes to get through his first day. Worth a watch, but depressing. Yeah, I like legal. Well worth a follow, I think. If you can't stay in the lane without lane assist, honestly, you should hand in your license and take the bus. That's quite true, Bob. But at the same time, like the fact that it takes over the steering wheel and tries to steer you into parked cars, it's like, can you not? Because it's not just park. Look, when there's cars parked, especially when you're going down like a little terrace street or something that's got cars parked on both sides, if someone opens their door, which happens, when kids get out and they open the back door without looking behind, you've got to give at least a meter and a half between you and any parked cars in case someone opens a fucking door, which has happened to me on more than one occasion. Did you hear about the Irish porn star Miles O'Toole? Wasn't Plenty O'Toole a Bond girl named after your father, I think? Beeb, still 2 meters away from anything ever, says Nick and Diff. Yes, it's so annoying. First world problems. Confetti! Yes, we got the confetti. Thank you very much to RRB there for triggering the confetti. We did it. We got the confetti. It's very exciting. Is it going to happen? Is it confetti? Can we get the confetti? Can we get... Waiting. There's something wrong with the with the goal today. It took ages to rank to count any super chats. Still waiting for the confetti. Did it appear? Didn't appear for me. Maybe it's because I popped out the chat. I don't know. But what I will do is this. Confetti! Woo! Yay! Woo, 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 woo. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, RRB, for the £2 super chat and the confetti. It's all good. It did happen. I saw it. Oh, okay, cool. I'd like a pop out. I popped it out. I shouldn't have popped it out, should I? Story of my life. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Might be around tonight at 6 o'clock. If not, 9 o'clock tomorrow. We've got a fun-packed bumper day tomorrow of shows on Politics Social. We have got me on my own in the morning for Morning Brew. Me and Phil at 1 o'clock for the agenda. And me and the gang at 9:30 for the Friday night social. So please join us or die. Only joking. We will allow you to live. We will. So listen, you take care, and I will speak to you, see you, hopefully, and hear from your comments later on today or maybe tomorrow. And until then, thank you so much for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.